So I couldn't figure out why I had that dream about Kristy and why I was so upset, and trying to figure out, make sense of why I was like really struggling with that. And I finally, after looking back on the whole situation, when I left Chad's, I went to Sanford Hospital for help as a domestic violence victim. The only doctors in Florida at that time, we're talking 2013, that had been that damn stupid, or no, 2014, when I left when I left Florida, because my mother brought me out to Arizona. But just to put things in perspective, the only doctors and social workers who blatantly threatened me and refused me proper victim services when I left Chad's, when I left his house, that was the Sanford, Florida hospital doctors and the psych hospital and the psych doctor. Got to Arizona, my nurse practitioner, Gloria, can't think of her name. She had plausible deniability. She tried to do her job, but I was still rupturing and hemorrhaging and living at Cass with Piper, and still wasn't getting comprehensive care. Well, based on crap Piper told me and my mother threatening me, the shit my mother threatened me over, which is why I ended up at Cass in the first place, Central Arizona Shelter Services, I said, all right, I'm going to go. My memory of Missouri was University of Missouri in 1998 had a very comprehensive program. They were like so fucking progressive that Florida and Arizona, when I would describe the program, they were very impressed. So I had no idea. Just like New York was progressive, when I went back, I had no idea that their whole systems had been corrupted. So when I went back to Missouri, yeah, I was posting a lot of photos of Kristy. I sent Kristy an email with a link to my social media so she could understand what was really going on. I was a federal investigator investigating multiple murders. I had people threatening me. My marriage was destroyed. And I'm going to do my fucking job. And yeah, I'm still crazy about you, but my job is my job. Well, she made it all about her. And really, at the time, I didn't know Kristy was even LGBT. I figured she'd probably married some rich white guy and shit out 6 kids by then. I mean, we're talking 16 years since she had been my social worker. I had no idea she was apparently still as attracted to me as she was 16 years ago. But now she's about to get married to a trophy wife, which I didn't know. Though she's claiming I was stalking her. If I was stalking her as a Fed, I would have known everything. And there would be phone records of me trying to call her. She worked at Edible Arrangements. I did look that up, but I was letting her know as part of my recovery team from 1998. I told her all about the Neurontin gabapentin shit that had been prosecuted. So, you know, made sure she knew everything, and they were watching my social media. So she can't say she didn't know. But her white privileged clan ass made it all about her and her new wife. Now, I couldn't conceive of somebody not being able to enjoy their honeymoon because an old flame was around. I had no idea she liked me that much. And that shouldn't have even mattered. So, back to what my point is. All the stupid shit you're seeing by police, social workers, homeless shelter staff, victim services, the social workers at the hospital, they're doing that stupid shit to cover up the stupid shit at Mizzou and Boone Hospital and McCambridge Center for Women, which is now owned by Family Counseling Center, I guess. None of the doctors got in my face and threatened me and locked me up on a psych ward and said, you're going to get into a hospital staff member's personal vehicle and we're going to take you to the truck stop, Midway truck stop, and drop you off and you're going to hitchhike out of here. But they falsified the hospital discharge records. Now, this is a social worker who's friends with Jacoby, because this is a small town, and the former McCambridge nurse. There were 2 nurses on staff at McCambridge in '98 when I was there. It was Kelly Nichols, I think her name was Kelly Nichols, and an older lady named Lois. Well, Kelly was the charge nurse at Mizzou Hospital Psych Ward, helping Kristy's other crony, some social worker, try to run me out of town because Kristy was about to get married and she was apparently not able to enjoy somebody she'd been with for years, from what I remember. Apparently she couldn't enjoy her honeymoon and her marriage knowing the person she should be married, which is me, was in town, but she knew I wasn't there for her. She knew I was there to get justice for all those murder victims and investigate all the healthcare fraud racketeering, which we now know was all tied to Epstein and his Wall Street cabal, and which includes the stockholders and oligarchs and CEOs that make up the both butt cheeks of the political ass we have called Epstein Uniparty, or Republicans and Democrats. The stupid shit that you're seeing today didn't start until Kristy, till I got to Missouri, Columbia, and Kristy didn't want me there. I hadn't met Beth Sweeney yet. Matter of fact, Beth was brought in by my victims' advocates, Catherine Hart, and former DOJ human rights investigator Nanette Ward at Central Missouri Stop Human Trafficking Coalition, who watched the doctors threatening me and refusing to do a proper evaluation of the hemorrhaging. They were convincing the board of Central Missouri Stop Human Trafficking to pay for the fucking prescription narcotics the doctors were writing for, but not doing a proper assessment. And they knew I was recording all of that. In fact, Chris something or another, some male nurse practitioner at Family Health Center Boone County, came in there high as fuck. You could see he was high. Catherine's like, he's clearly got a problem. He was trying to force me to take gabapentin for what? For hemorrhaging? For uterine cancer? So the Neurontin gabapentin kickback shit where they're forcing patients to take unnecessary is still going on. Turns out Pfizer bought all the generic manufacturers of the shit. So they didn't lose money when the patent ran up and generic manufacturers were able to reproduce it, even though it's completely worthless for anything other than a secondary seizure medication in case your primary seizure medication doesn't work and you're having breakthrough seizures. That's the only thing it's really literally good for. They've proven that it really doesn't work for any of the off-label uses that they push and force on people. So and basically Catherine Hart and Nanette Ward convinced me and convinced Sweeney to see me because 17 fucking doctors got recorded threatening me, sometimes in front of Catherine Hart and Nanette Ward. What does Sweeney do? She comes in, she spends 2 hours with me on the first visit, tells me the truth. She doesn't mention cancer, but if you listen to the recording, that's exactly what it indicates. She says, this isn't a bunch of disparaging diagnosis. This is all your uterus. It's a common problem. It's extremely painful. Do you need any refills on your tramadol or Vicodin? And I said, no, I've got plenty of them. And I opened up my book bag and showed her. I did that on every fucking visit. They knew I was rupturing and septic with untreated uterine cancer, and they were prescribing all these narcotics with a falsified diagnosis of chronic back pain and pelvic pain, all these different bullshit diagnoses, because they get to bill more, pushing me to apply for Medicaid and SSI. To retroactively pay for all their unbundling and upcoding. Then at the end, she's basically feeling me up, what's called cruising in the gay community, and coming on to me. And then it's pretty obvious I don't really get it. I'm like, surely not. I'm autistic. I don't get it. And I also recorded Sweeney and Barbara Bauer saying, I don't care if you record me, I'm not doing anything wrong. So they knew they were being recorded. They were telling me the truth that all these doctors, and they were, at that point, the only doctors that had been overtly abusive were all of Kristy Jacoby's cronies. Social workers, nurses, doctors, trying to run me out of town so she could enjoy her wedding, which I guess and then when I'm like, what's really going on here? So I was trying to contact her because she wasn't at McCambridge anymore. Never mind, she's having all of her cronies lie and say I'm in active addiction. She was my counselor. She should have done a proper assessment and just referred me over to McCambridge, but none of them were doing that. Rachel Kroll, not to mention before I ever met Sweeney, I recorded administrative hearing judge and guardian ad litem attorney, child abuse protective attorney, Ruth O'Neill, trying to get me to accept a bus ticket to Chicago. She says, they're not going to help you. You need to get out of town. They're not going to help you. And she talked to me. I said, Ruth, they're falsifying the record, because they would lie to me. I would record it. The whole community, the medical community would blow up. I was staying at Lois Bryant House for Women, a tiny little, it was a private home, but they called it a shelter. Ruth O'Neill lived in her house next door. She was like one of the admin. Rachel Kroll and her husband ran it. Rachel was all connected with the medical community as a biochemist or biologist, and her dad was a doctor or something. So then Rachel blew up and told a bunch of lies to Ruth, and Ruth knew I was an investigator doing a criminal investigation. So I recorded Ruth coming over and asking me what's really going on, and I would show her, and she's sitting there going, yep, that's definitely a blatant falsified medical record. That's criminal. And the other ladies at Lois Bryant House are going, why won't these people help you? I said, it's called whistleblower retaliation and it's a felony. I said, this is DEA drug diversion. They can't write narcotics to me and then falsify the records and not treat the condition. And Ruth is on audio and video going. So that's what are they going to do? When we produce those recordings of Ruth O'Neill and my emails to Ruth O'Neill, are they going to call her a conspiracy theorist too? What's more, if she's a guardian ad litem and I'm investigating the murder and sex trafficking of children, don't tell me she didn't have the connections to get somebody in there and do something about that shit. And she was all cronies with Jacoby too. So that's really, when you see South Burlington PD, University of Vermont, Paul Dragon, Cuomo, Byron Brown, that's what they're covering up. The really stupid shit that happened that escalated to this level of stupidity where they're sending people to fucking stalk me, threaten me, and try to lure me back to Florida. Yeah, when I went back to Florida to give Chad all that evidence, of course they were covering for him. His father was just as guilty, but the doctor they had, when I went back to Florida the first time, the GYN they called in to threaten me he bragged about how he studied at Mizzou, how he went to Truman, what used to be called Northwest Missouri State University. My aunt was a alumni there. My Annie Lane, the one that won a state award for best. She was nominated for a National Teacher Award, and she won State of Missouri Teacher Award. And he was all, yeah, we were on the record. He's like, oh, I'm going to call and make sure nobody gives you cancer treatment here either. That's why I had to leave Florida. Went back to Arizona with all that. Then all those doctors did the same. So all this really stupid, threatening shit by police, social workers, nurses, doctors, and admin blatantly threatening me in Arizona, New York, and Vermont is to cover the shit that Kristy Jacoby started. Let's say I had gotten into town and gotten in touch with Nanette Ward right away and gotten referred to Sweeney right away. Sweeney could have fixed the whole thing, and it would have been no harm, no foul. But no, she's mad because she got recorded. What Sweeney decided to do, once she talked to me and realized all these doctors were in trouble, she'd have decided to go ahead and fuck me and then help them kill me. Help Jacoby and Cronin kill me because, well, she's a part of the fraud shit too. She told me the truth because she can't really blackmail anybody if I don't know any better. When I'm posting that I know what's really going on, okay, now the doctors are worried because I'm and they knew that Virginia Piper and Darla Munoz, a gay basher, was investigating, but Darla wasn't investigating.